Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm talking about parenting regrets and also parenting wins. I wanted to make a video about all the things I wish I had done differently in my baby's first year and also some of the things that I'm really glad that I did. If you're a new parent or you're about to become a new parent, congrats by the way. Hopefully this is helpful. I do a lot of parenting content on my channel, so if you're not already, I would love it if you would click that subscribe button down below and we can be friends. Okay, so we're gonna start from basically birth or a little bit before birth. The first thing I wish I had done differently with Rowan as a newborn was taken more maternity leave. I was kind of in a weird situation because I'm self-employed. I do YouTube, and at the time I was also doing freelance graphic design and copywriting work. And I didn't really have the option to just kind of leave my clients hanging. And I only took 3 weeks of maternity leave, which is so silly. And I definitely greatly underestimated the demands of being a new mom and the sleeplessness. I wish that I had taken at least a week before my due date and then at least 6 weeks after, like minimum. Here in the US, the standard is kind of 12 to 16 weeks of maternity leave, but I think in other countries where they have a full year of maternity leave, like that is where it's really at with bonding with your baby and just being able to manage your new role. Obviously, taking a long maternity leave isn't an option for everybody. It wasn't an option for me, but I wish that I had tried harder to find a way and that I had known how important it would be to have more time to recover. The second thing I wish I had done was more skin to skin with my baby. When he was first born, obviously I was breastfeeding, so I got a lot of skin to skin that way. But everybody says, you know, the newborn cuddles, you need to soak them up because before you know it, your kid will be a toddler tearing around and not want to sit in one place for more than 30 seconds. And logically, I knew that. But when you're so tired and you're in so much pain and like you just want to sleep, it can be hard to capture that. And sometimes it just felt like a whole ordeal to like take off my shirt and take off his clothes and do skin to skin and then put everybody back together. And I wish that I had made more of an effort to do that. The next thing I wish I had done, and this is specifically for breastfeeding moms, is bought an infant scale. If you're breastfeeding, you don't really know how much your baby is actually getting. And for me, Rowan is on the smaller side. He's in like the 10th to 25th percentile, depending on if we're talking like weight or height. And I was always very worried about his weight and his transfer and whether he was getting enough. And I think buying a good quality infant scale would have really helped kind of ease my mind if I had been able to check every couple of weeks in between checkups that he was gaining weight properly. There was a lot of stress with me surrounding breastfeeding and whether he was getting enough. So even being able to check his transfer, where you put them naked on the scale, then breastfeed them, then put them naked on the scale again and, you know, subtract the difference to see how many ounces of breast milk they took, that would have been really good for me, I think. This next one's a little bit controversial, and if this isn't your jam, no judgment at all, but personally, I wish that I had introduced a pacifier sooner. We waited until 3 weeks. I was trying to wait until 4 weeks because that was like the American Association of Pediatrics recommendation to avoid nipple confusion. What I didn't know is that nipple confusion is incredibly rare. Like our pediatrician said that in 15 years of working, they have never seen one case of nipple confusion, and I kind of thought that it was this inevitable thing that would happen if we introduced a pacifier or a bottle too soon, and it just wasn't true. That's really not the case. Of course it does happen, I'm sure, but plenty of people introduce the pacifier sooner. I was so worried about sticking to the rules and doing everything right that our first few weeks were probably more miserable than they needed to be because I was constantly comfort nursing him, and he was just flutter sucking because he didn't have another way to self-soothe. If we do have another baby, fingers crossed one day, I definitely will be introducing the pacifier a lot sooner. Going along with that, something that I really wish that I had done was continued to offer a bottle regularly. I have been exclusively breastfeeding, but occasionally would pump, and he would take a bottle of pumped breast milk. And he was good about it when he was really young. We started again around that 3 or 4 week mark, and we would just try to do it like once a week to make sure that he wasn't gonna refuse a bottle. And then when he was about 6 months old, I just kind of stopped. And I don't really have an explanation for that other than the fact that I was just there all the time because pandemic, to feed him. And so the idea of like feeding him and then pumping, it was just a pain in the butt. And then I realized that he would no longer take a bottle. And we've tried breast milk in an open mouth cup, a sippy cup, a straw cup, a bottle, different kinds of bottles, and he just won't do it. And I think that probably wouldn't have been the case if I had been more consistent with continuing to offer it to him. And it definitely would have bought me a lot more freedom and flexibility. Like if I have to go and do something for work, like I know I can only be gone for 3 to 4 hours. hours max if I feed him right before I leave, and that can be really stressful. So if we had the option of a bottle need be, I think that would have been a good way to go. If I could do it over again, I wouldn't be so scared of formula. I had a relatively smooth breastfeeding journey, but like I said, there was a lot of stress attached to how much he was getting. And even though I don't logically believe this, somewhere in my heart felt like it was a failure if I gave him formula, and I was so determined like he will never taste formula, which is silly because I fully believe that fed is best, and I was a formula-fed baby and I'm totally fine. But because I had the opportunity to breastfeed and I was lucky enough to be able to do that, I felt a lot of weight and responsibility to like fully do it. And I think in some of those moments when I was really worried about him being hungry and getting enough, and he always was, I mean, if there were any signs of him really being hungry, I would have. But just to ease my own mind, even just offering it to him to see if he would even take it or if he was full probably would have been helpful. If we do have another one, I am definitely planning on breastfeeding again, but I might supplement with formula if I have that same kind of anxiety, just for my sake. Something else that I wish that I had done more of this year, and this isn't really my fault because again, pandemic, like we were sheltering in place for a lot of his early days and like even still quarantining and being very careful about where we take him. But I wish that I had had the opportunity to become more confident with solo outings before my husband like went back to work. Matt took 6 weeks of paternity leave, ironically more than I took maternity leave, and he is working from home. So he has been here to help me whenever we need to go somewhere with Rowan, and we still don't take him a lot of places, but I've noticed now that the world is feeling a bit more normal and a bit more safe, it's very difficult for me to take him out on his own. And I don't think that I have the confidence that the mom of a 1-year-old in normal times probably would have around leaving the house. Even like stuff like folding the stroller. Like my husband's just kind of always done it because it's always been the 3 of us, and I've always had somebody like extra hands to wrangle the diaper bag and the stroller and everything. And so now when I take Rowan out solo, it's a stressful experience, and I'm just now learning how to do that. And I think if I learned how to do it when he was a newborn and it was easier to get him to sleep outside of his like routine in his room, it would have probably been a lot simpler. Speaking of Matt, and just like having him around, something else I wish I had done was gotten him more involved sooner. I think I had something inside of me that felt like I'm his mom, I'm supposed to do it all, even though Matt literally never led me to believe that at all. And again, logically, I didn't believe that. But the postpartum hormones are real, and there's such a drive to just like take care of this little being. And so I basically tried to do it all solo, even though it was completely unnecessary. Like I would get up every morning at 6 and like give him his bath by myself and do the whole first wake window until I put him down for his nap, and then like go back to bed, and then like we would all get up and start our day after his first nap. And I didn't need to do that. I finally was able to ask for help, and just be like, hey, can you deal with bath time? Can you help me with, XYZ? And it made me feel so much better. I was feeling less drained and burnt out, and I definitely was a better mom because of it. Also, accepting help from family members was tricky because again, quarantine, probably sound like a broken record at this point, but being a mom, like a first-time mom in a pandemic, was so weird and difficult, and nothing was the way that I thought that it would be. Once we all felt safe getting together, then I was able to get help, and that wasn't until he was like 9 months old, but it made a world of difference, and I wish that I'd been able to do that sooner. Something else I wish I had done to kind of fill my own cup was to join some kind of a mommy group. I was fully planning on doing this, and then the like birth classes and mommy groups at our hospital kept getting canceled or turned virtual. And because I have so many wonderful online friends already, it didn't really appeal to me to go to a virtual group because I have that with you guys and I'm so thankful. And what I really needed was in-person friends. And that again wasn't really possible or plausible. I think a lot of new parents were feeling the same way we were, where we just kind of wanted to hunker down and feel really safe with our fresh little fragile newborns. I'm just now starting to create more of an in-person group of mom friends, and it has made the biggest difference to just get to hang out with people who get it, like who get the day-to-day like monotony and the struggles that you forget when you're not in that stage of life, and to be able to complain about, the stupid stuff or or the things that we think are stupid but honestly are like really valid things to be upset about. Then kind of moving into like when Rowan was about 6 months old, something I really wish I had done was done more research on solid foods before he was born, or at least before he was like ready to start solids, because I did so much research on birth and breastfeeding and newborn sleep, but I didn't do a lot of research on solid foods. And I just thought, oh, I have 6 months, like I'll study up on baby led weaning when we're closer to that time. But then the baby came and I had no time. And so it at first was difficult to figure out. One resource that is incredible is Solid Starts. They have a website and an Instagram, and they have a database where you can look up different foods and it'll tell you like all the facts about it and whether or not it's a choking hazard and how nutritionally dense it is and how it can be served to babies of different ages. And that has been a lifesaver for me, but I wish that I had done the research sooner, because mealtime is one of the most draining parts of motherhood for me, like having to do 3 solid meals and 2 snacks every single day. At this age now of 1, I just feel like I'm constantly trying to figure out what's for lunch. And I wish that I had figured out some like core recipes, or at least had a base understanding of how solids worked before I actually did. I'm okay now, but it would have been helpful. Something else that I personally regret, and I don't say this to make anybody feel guilty, because I think it's totally valid to like need 3 minutes of peace to scroll on Instagram on your phone. That's like not what I'm talking about. I wish that I had been more present and on my phone less in the really early days of motherhood, especially like the early days of breastfeeding. In the middle of the night, it's like I was on my phone to keep myself awake, because otherwise I was gonna fall asleep in the rocking chair with the baby, which is not very safe. And I think that kind of just carried over. And now I find myself reaching for my phone in moments when I'm like bored of, you know, putting the ball in the drop hole for the 10 millionth time. And this time is precious, and not that you have to enjoy every minute of it, because that is completely unrealistic advice. And of course you can't enjoy every single minute of something that is very taxing and hard sometimes, but sometimes I'm not present enough to even give myself the opportunity to enjoy it, if that makes any sense. So that's something I'm trying to work on. And I wanted to end the video with a few things that I am really glad that I did. Ended on a more positive note. The first thing is taking a 1-second video of Rowan every single day for his first year. I say every single day. I did miss a few days, but if you've seen the video, if you haven't seen it, I'll link it here. We basically have like his whole first year in like 5 minutes that we can watch, and it makes me so emotional every single time. But it was such a cool thing to look back on, like on his birthday, and I think I'm gonna keep doing it every single year, because it's easy to forget the little moments in your day, like the little routine things that change so much from like the newborn stage to the toddler stage, but it happens so gradually you might forget. So capturing those kinds of things in like a really short form content kind of way was really special to look back on, and I'm so glad that we did that. Even if you haven't been doing it and your kiddo is a few months old, I bet you have some clips on your phone of them like in their first month, second month, third month that you can use to like start it off, even if it's like every 3 days you have a second, and then like keep going with it more consistently. The app I use, I think, is just called 1 second every day. If you have the patience to actually edit it yourself, the quality will be higher, and I would recommend that, but I didn't have the time, so I just used that app and it was fine. Another thing I am so glad that we did, and again, this might be a little bit controversial, no judgment at all if this isn't your thing, but I am so thankful that we sleep trained. If you've been around on this channel since the birth vlog, you will know that for the first 5 months of his life, Rowan didn't sleep. Basically, he just never wanted to sleep. He was still up every 2 hours in the night, even at 5 months old. And when he was developmentally ready, we used the Ferber method. And if you don't know what the Ferber method is, it's basically like a controlled or compassionate cry it out, where you go in at pre-marked intervals and like speak to your child to soothe them and let them know that you're still there and you're not abandoning them, but you don't pick them up and rescue them. We only did it once we felt really confident that like he wasn't hungry, his diaper was, you know, dry, or he was wearing a nighttime diaper that was keeping it wicked away and he was comfortable, and he didn't actually need us. He was just used to having us there, and it was the best thing we've ever done. It took 3 nights. And it was a rough 3 nights. He cried for like 45 minutes the first night, 40 minutes the second night, 20 some minutes the third night, which doesn't seem like that long, but when you're laying in bed staring at the ceiling and your kiddo is screaming, it's not a good feeling. But after those 3 nights, he has basically been sleeping through the night ever since, with like sporadic interruptions to that, with, you know, sleep regressions and developmental stuff. But for the most part, he sleeps through the night and he's a much happier kid. He's a different baby than he was, even just from like 5 to 6 months. Felt like a completely different kid. He was so much happier. We were so much happier and we had more patience. It was a good call. Another thing that I'm super glad that I did was baby-led weaning. Like I said, it took a bit to get into it and like get the research all figured out and get into a good routine of knowing what to give him. But it has helped his fine motor skills so much. That and his Love Every toys, which are also amazing, have really helped him develop his fine motor skills. And also I feel like he has a better relationship with food. Like he will try any food and he's not a picky eater, and that may come in time. However, I think we're starting him off with a good baseline of having a good relationship with food and being able to self-regulate and decide when he's done. It is scary when you start baby-led weaning, especially because when your kiddo's really young, like they gag because they're trying to figure out how to move the food around in their mouth, and gagging is actually good. Gagging means that they're doing what they need to do to keep their airways clear and they're learning how to do that, but it's still scary. I would recommend taking an infant CPR class, something else I'm really glad that I did because I was able to feel more confident with it. And your confidence grows as you do it more, so you can start off with like mashed black beans on like a meltable teething wafer or whatever. Like if that's what you can handle for your kid to self-feed at first, do what you're comfortable with. But I think it's really good to give them the opportunity to feed themselves if you can. That's it. That's a whole year of Rowan's life and of parenting all summed up. I'm sure I forgot some things. Feel free to ask questions in the comments as always. What's right for me might not be right for you. That's totally fine, but that's just my personal experience of things that I wish I had done differently in Rowan's first year and some things that I'm really glad I did. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you want more parenting and lifestyle content, please click that subscribe button down below. I would love to have you as a member of my community. I love you guys all so much, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.